And that turned out to be an apposite title, didn't it? It's from the album Different Class.
Wonderful. I thought you were going to back announce it now, mentioning Common People is Andy McCluskey. But yeah, what a tune, though. What a tune.
Yeah, Common People from '95. And in the fine tradition of great tunes that got to number 2.
Yes. Well, I've only ever got to number 3 in the UK.
Was that Enola Gay, number 3?
Oh, God, no.
Was it not?
No.
What was number 3?
Souvenir and Sailing on the Seven Seas.
Oh, yeah, well,
Enola Gay never got higher than number 7 or 8, I think.
No. Souvenirs are good, and I like them. But Andy McCluskey is here. We were talking about, hi to, say, hey, Desmond, you've been playing some weird stuff since 8 o'clock. Stick to Gracie Fields from you-know-who. P.S. Like the new Bolton accent. But anyway, Andy McCluskey is here, and we were talking about gigs. You can remember the first gig you saw, you were telling me? You can't remember exactly.
No,
it was one of two.
It was one of two. It was both at the Liverpool Boxing Stadium, and it was either Cockney Rebel or Camel playing the Snow Goose, a complete album.
I bought the Snow Goose again recently, and it was pretty much unlistenable, really. It's kind of the kind of oboe quartet bits and things. You think, right, get on with the song, really.
Prog hasn't aged well, although there's scarily large amounts of it seem to be coming back into fashion at the moment.
Yeah. Cockney Rebel were great at that time.
Oh, yeah.
Really good.
Oh, yeah.
Really good. Mike Gallagher said, I saw Jethro Tull, supported by Procol Harum, late 60s, Dundee. My mum made me wear a suit because they were in concert. Ooh. So she put him in a suit because he was going to a concert. Big Al said, I remember seeing the rocktastic Bachman Turner Overdrive at Glasgow Apollo, supported by Thin Lizzy. Probably around 77, but don't hold me to that, as I was young and had a rash. And John on the A14 said, I saw U2 support the Stranglers. Hugh Cornwell came on stage and said, U2, they were bloody awful, they'd probably go far.
Yeah, well, we supported Talking Heads, and U2 were bottom of the bill in 1979. That was quite impressive.
Yes, that's really good. Yeah. Mark Sanderson said, I saw Hazel O'Connor at Lancaster Uni, and can still remember the crowd waiting outside before the gig, asking about the support act, who were Duran Duran.
Ah.
Right, there you go. Right, Andy McCluskey is with us. Lots to talk about, particularly the reissue of this album, Dazzle Ships, which is kind of being billed in the papers and everything as the album that more or less, or nearly, dismantled OMD's glittering career at the time. But we'll discuss that after we've heard from tomorrow night's guests. These are Elbow. Good, isn't it?
Yes. You see, I've mellowed with age, you see. 30 years ago, I wouldn't have gone anywhere near a guitar sound like that. But that was, there was some big fat riffs in that song.
That was.
Very
great.
nice.
And one of the great opening lines, I think, we're talking about Jarvis's words, but the guy on that, I've been working on a cocktail called Grounds for Divorce. It's just one of the great opening lines, I think. That is Elbow and Grounds for Divorce, which was released yesterday, and they'll be live in session tomorrow night. I saw a guy last night, and he said they were going to do that song, but he was threatening to do the big fat guitar riff on harmonica.
Oh,
so,
not the same. Not the same at all.
I don't
not
know.
the same at all.
We'll see how it turns out. Andy McCluskey's here, and we're talking about Dazzle Ships. Hi to Dave Cross from Aldridge in the West Midlands. Says, bought Dazzle Ships off my mate for £2 in 1984. Fantastic album. That was it. Next day, went out, bought all their albums, and had my hair cut like Andy's. And Andy's still got his hair cut like Andy.
Slightly less of it, but yeah, it's just about recognisable.
So take us back to, because Architecture and Morality was a huge album which spawned, 3 or 4 big hit singles?
Yeah, three, top 5.
And you'd sold about, 3 million copies of that?
3 million albums, about over 10 million singles, and it was, you see, it seems ridiculous when I try to explain it to people now, this sort of day and age of wannabes and X Factor and everything, that we accidentally got into the music industry. We were influenced by German bands, and we were just making noises in Paul's mum's back room, and kind of by accident we dared ourselves to go on stage, and then we got a gig here and a gig there, and Factory offered us a record deal, and then we got on a subsidiary of Virgin, so we fell in through the back door.
Yeah.
So, because we were just wanting to do experimental music, and then we thought, all right, well, we've got a deal here. We're going to change the world with our music. Quite how we thought we were going to do it now, I'm not quite sure, but we were going to change the world. So we set off trying to change the world, writing about aeroplanes that dropped atom bombs and oil refineries and, the important things that songs should be about.
Yeah.
And then, we had our third album, sold all of this, and we went, all right, well, now we're all over the world and everybody's buying the records and we haven't changed it. Oh, bloody hell.
Yeah.
We're wrong. What we do now? I know. Let's get even more radical.
Yeah.
And so we set off on the journey of Dazzle Ships with all of our political samples and shortwave radio and speaking clocks and toy pianos and...
Well, shall we hear, for people who don't know, we'll talk lots more about it. I was thinking of playing the ABC Auto Industry.
Oh, go on,
shall
we? Please listen after.
So, listening. It's only 2 minutes long, but, so you've got to imagine, OMD, unlikely as it seemed, even to them, one of the biggest pop groups in the world at this point.
And we did this song on the tube as our comeback first appearance for Dazzle Ships.
See, when you finished that, did you kick your chairs back and think, oh, there's a classic?
That'll have them boogieing in the disco.
It's not Enola Gay, is it?
Well, yeah, but the funny thing is, you listen to it now after 25 years of people being educated into samples and mashups and more fractured sounds. I don't think it's as scary now as it certainly was 25 years ago. It's quite musical. It's not unpleasant to listen to.
It's got a nursery rhyme quality, hasn't it?
Duran it ain't.
No.
But,
bits of craft work when they kind of did the numbers things and all those kind of stuff.
No, we completely decided to step even further away from what we'd been doing and essentially completely dismantle the songwriting down into its barest bones and not kind of sugarcoat it in the chords and the melodies and things. I mean, there are some sort of conventional songs on the album.
We're going to have one.
There was a lot of stuff that was just basically the bare bones, which people just couldn't quite accept at the time. I mean, now it seems to be renowned as our work of genius.
Well, of course, the technology played a part because you'd always been had this sort of like boffin image which you kind of cultivated. And when I first saw you, had an old reel-to-reel tape going round and everything. By this time, you'd made a few quid, and things like the emulator had been invented, and so sampling started.
The first sampling machine that was available, and but it was sampling in its infancy, and you could only sample for about 1.5 seconds, so you can hear it's all we were just learning. But that's it. Let's record ourselves saying 1, 2, 3 ABC. Okay, let's make a song out of it. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's how Blue Monday happened. They got a drum machine and turned it on, and that was the first rhythm that came out of it, famously. I mean, the concept of Dazzle Ships, which, I mean, Dazzle Ships are kind of, I've heard it described as cubism on the ocean waves, because it was a kind of way of disguising ships by painting really bold stripes on them, which sounds an unlikely method of disguise.
Instead of painting them battleship grey and hoping they blended in, the theory was, I think, that when you saw it from a distance, particularly through, say, a periscope of a submarine, if it was painted in all these slashes and stripes and loud, fractured colours, that you wouldn't be able to work out how far it was, how big it was.
Can't line it up in the sights, can you?
So, I mean, just, it was as though the futurists and the vorticists had got hold of the Navy and persuaded some gullible admiral, come on, let us paint your ships this colour, mate. It'll hide them on it.
And it was semi-legendary designer Peter Saville who did all the factory stuff, who kind of introduced the album more or less started from the visual concept, didn't it?
The ultimate tail wagging the dog. The designer said, I've seen this painting called Dazzle Ships in Birkenhead Docks by Wadsworth.
Yeah.
He said, I'd really like to do a Dazzle Ships cover. Can you write a song called Dazzle Ships? So we did. Named the album after it. Yeah.
I mean, it sort of fitted with it because you said you became a pop group sort of by accident. And you seem to be kind of doing an anti-pop star thing in terms of like, the knitwear, and some would say the dancing.
Oh, yes, all part of it.
But had you become seduced by it? I mean, or did you kind of readily withdraw from it and make an album like this? Or once you've been a pop star, did you actually start to quite enjoy it?
Well, no, I think once we made this album and the thought of not being a pop star was presented to us, then we realised how much we were enjoying it, and we certainly kind of reeled back into a much more conservative songwriting after the Dazzle Ships album. But, no, I mean, listen, this album... We were both 23, and this was our 4th album.
Wow, yeah.
And we'd sold... The funny thing was, I mean, we'd sold all these millions of records. We were on such a crap deal that I was still living in the 6x6 box room over the staircase in my parents' house.
Right.
My mother had all the gold and platinum albums on the wall downstairs, and I wasn't earning any money really, because we were earning literally a penny per record, so it wasn't for the money, and we never wanted to be famous or pop stars. I mean, Paul and I used to look at each other, be standing on top of the pops, and Kid Jensen or somebody was just about, and now straight in at number 4 is OMD, and we'd look at each other and go, How the hell did we get it? The bubble's gone up, so they're going to find us out one day.
And you were called Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark, for goodness sake.
Well, not exactly the ideal name for pop superstardom, was it?
Shall we have a listen to one of the more conventional songs that was on there, anyway? This is Telegraph. Telegraph from Dazzle Ships, one of the more accessible tracks. We play it for Scott Marlowe in Bournemouth, who says, just dug out my copy of Dazzle Ships, not played it in years, but looking at the track listing, I now remember what a weird, wonderful, original-sounding album it is. It had a huge influence on me at the time as a teenage keyboard player. Jason Parks near Worcester. Great that Dazzle Ships is getting its much-deserved kudos. It was the gateway to lots of odder stuff from Germany. All the krautrock references and things like Neu he's talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Dan in Burnley. Just to say, Dazzle Ships is one of the great undiscovered albums. Sounds like nothing I've ever heard, despite it having a big nod to Kraftwerk. It's like a warmed-up version of Radioactivity. Simple musically, but full of the warmth of Andy's vocals. Although we were talking about that, I was listening to it through again yesterday, and it seemed like you were sort of deliberately wrecking your own stuff to a degree, because even the poppier songs, you were really forcing the voice.
There's some pretty high notes on that Telegraph song there. I don't think I'd like to try and hit those again these days. But do you know, the funny thing is, just saying about, it's an unrecognised, I mean, it's a gold album. It actually went gold. It went to number 5 in the first week, and then everybody took them back to the shop.
What did that do? Architectural Reality did 3 million. I mean, this still did like 300,000 or something.
Yeah.
If you'd done them the other way round, there'd have been no problem, would there?
But we didn't, unfortunately.
But I mean, in a way, it's sort of like, you think of bands like Radiohead, who sort of did OK Computer, the world-dominating album, then went on and did Kid A and Amnesiac, although presumably those albums still did all right. What did the record company say? Were they worried?
Well, the funny thing was that we'd been on a subsidiary of Virgin for the first 3, and then that had folded, so we didn't know anybody at Virgin, they didn't know. They just assumed, well, what do? Well, they go up in the studio, they write the record, they record it, and then we sell millions of it. OK, so off we went. We never met an A&R man, nobody from the record company. We delivered it to them, and they went, bloody weird, but they must know what they're doing. The last one sold 3 million. Yeah. They released it and went, oh, they don't know what they're doing.
Of course, you wouldn't be given the chance now. It's quite interesting with the music industry, isn't it? You wouldn't be tolerated.
No, they'd have record company crawling all over you going, have you thought about this remix, and can you edit that, and can you do this, and no.
It's interesting because, I mean, you've got, of course, another take on the music industry, because after that, I don't know whether everybody knows, I mean, but a lot of people know that you got involved in kind of producing pop music, and you unleashed the monster that was Atomic Kitten.
Yes, indeed, for my sins. It seemed like a good idea.
I like Whole Again. I think it's a good pop song. I really do like it.
I will put Whole Again alongside Enola Gay and Maid of Orleans as one of the best songs I've written. I mean, I wasn't trying to change the world.
No, I think it's a good pop song.
It's a very good song, and I was proud of it. Unfortunately, after the success of the first album, I... for reasons that I'm not allowed to talk about, because certain people obviously feel guilty and had gagging clauses in the termination contract, I had my contract ripped up.
Right.
So that was a bit disappointing, but then, I'm not responsible for what they became at the end.
Because it always struck me that when people talk in a sneering way about manufactured music, what does that mean? It means kind of people sing songs like Tamla Motown, you could say.
Exactly, the Supremes, the Monkees. I mean, it's where you draw the line in manufactured music. Yeah. I mean, I obviously I had mellowed with age. I mean, the 18-year-old Andy McCluskey would have shot the 40-year-old Andy McCluskey for doing Atomic Kitten. But it was...
that was what was great about it, in a way, isn't it? Rather than having a kind of solo career that drifted on into doing something completely different.
Yeah. No, it was... I mean, it was great, and I enjoyed it. And then, I did work with other people for a while, and then finally decided that I wanted to go back to doing OMD again. Actually.
Although, before we go back and finish off, we're getting a show and tell from you as well, but you had a kind of a near miss because you got this reputation of being north of England's Svengali for young girl singers, didn't you?
It was terrible. I had all these teenage girls beating the door down asking me to... well, one of them actually put a band together who were brilliant, and I spent a long time with them, a band called Genie Queen, and the music was amazing, and they could sing their socks off. But unfortunately, the lead singer, who persuaded me to put all the time and the money into it, finally decided that there was a better career to be had by wearing not many clothes on the front cover of FHM and going out with Peter Crouch, the one and only Abby Clancy.
Right, yeah.
Who, people will not believe is a great singer, but she is.
Right.
And then I went from the sublime to the ridiculous, having wasted a load of time with that not working. Then the next thing is, somebody comes through my door and my mate said, she sings in our restaurant and she's really good, will you meet her? I said, listen, love, you're wonderful, I love your voice, love your songs, but I'm getting out of this business, I can't help you, really sorry. Amy Duffy. So, you know.
What a great singer she is, isn't she? So, right, let's have a show and tell them and let you go, because you've brought a record in, which, again, you know, when people say surprised when you say whole again, and you did that, so this is a great record, but again, a slight surprise, which is good.
Yeah, well, when I tell people that this was the first single I bought, and I was 12 at the time, and they know me for my German influence in electronic, but I've always had, I guess I've been a romantic old softy at heart, and I mean, this song is one of the greatest sad love songs ever written. And, of course, all the other things that go with it, the guys who wrote it committed suicide, the guy who sang it died early, but, I mean, great song, and unfortunately there's a new generation who think Mariah Carey wrote it, which is sad, but yeah, Without You, sung by Harry Nilsson.
Well, fantastic. I mean, it's been great seeing you. I'm getting people asking, are you going to do a Dazzle Ships tour?
We are, I think, pretty certainly going to tour at the end of the year, and we will play, not all of the Dazzle Ships, but we'll play some of it, but the other three lads in the band immediately said, we're not using the bloody flags again, so I don't know how we're going to do it.
Oh, you did a semaphore
We did a
sort of
semaphore
opening
thing with ABC and 1, 2, 3, but I think, I mean, we had such a great time doing Architectural Manoeuvres last year, and we really pushed the boat out and put a lot of time into, you know, commissioning films and a giant LED screen and everything, that, because I guess we didn't want to seem like sad middle-aged bastards trying to top up our pension funds. We had a great time, and we are onwards and upwards, I think, now.
New stuff?
There will be at some point, which I know scares the hell out of people, because they say, well, we want to hear electricity, but don't play any new crap. I think the new stuff is quite groovy, actually, and it doesn't sound like Atomic Kitten.
Right, okay. Lovely seeing you, really nice.